it is weird how like I even said that with trying to think, somebody posted about or said to me about like training and stuff, and I said like you could easily take a split second of the vehicle training that we did and criticize it so far out, right? Like, and that's where like sometimes I have a hard time with like certain critiques of stuff because I'm like, let it. What is the, if it's a split second on social media, what is the reasoning behind that specific training? I want to know the background of it rather than me just being like, why would you ever be in a vehicle grappling or in
Oh
that,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and so there's sometimes where, you know, obviously we do see the McDojo stuff where you're like, yeah, that's ridiculous. But certain types of movement, I'm like, why are they saying it go that way? What is the background to why they're saying that? And so,
Yeah, and I think social media is huge on that, where like people just see something and they go with it without trying to understand the premise of the clip or the video or the picture. It's like, oh, I don't agree with this full attack mode. Instead of being like, hold on, what's this premise? What's this base? Where's this going on? And that leads us into no cop out. That's perfect because we're going to talk about that too, because that plays a huge role in training, the training environment. My name's Ish. I'm your host of No Cop Out. I've been in law enforcement for about 9 years. In that time, I've since become a defensive tactics instructor, firearms instructor, trained jiu-jitsu. I've had my blue belt for a little bit now. The little knee set me back, but we're back at it. And you're watching No Cop Out, so thank you for tuning in. Basically, the goal of No Cop Out is to foster open communication within the law enforcement community. That is our goal. It's to create a platform where we can have intentional conversations that we may shy away from because we don't want to offend anyone or we don't want to risk getting in trouble. It's like if you come here with the best of intentions, with the goal of not only improving ourselves but helping the industry as a whole and those listening, I don't think you can be wrong. We got to check ourselves, check our egos, and hold each other accountable. That's what makes this job. That's what makes you get better at this job. Is when you have someone who can check you and can hold you accountable for good intentions, for good reasons, right? Not just to get a promotion or something. That has not happened to anyone I know, but I watch movies. Yeah, it's kind of like I'm here to learn new things, and I'm hoping that as the episodes drop and people start watching and listening, that they can learn new things, or maybe they can chime in the discussions online and maybe question, oh, I don't understand this. This is how I've been doing it. This is why I've been doing it. And now we can foster this open communication. So yeah, that is the goal of No Cop Out. Today I'm with Judd Ekis. He's been in law enforcement for about 18 years, worked across a various amount of specialized units. Firearms, defensive tactics instructor, SWAT, narcotics, mounted unit, motorcycle unit. Am I missing anything?
that's pretty much it. And the academy, being an instructor at the academy.
And an academy instructor. So not only do you do a lot of like seasoned people, but you also get to go back to where it all started and work with cadets and stuff. I do that too sometimes, and it's cool to see how the training has evolved in the academy from even when I went in 2015
Yep.
to now.
Oh yeah.
How does it change for you?
A lot more years than that. About almost 10 more years prior to that. It changed a ton. When I was first there, just even some of the instructors really weren't into it. It was a change of pace for them in their day. And I mean, I had instructors that came in and I remember the one would just throw the book on the desk and be like, all right, well, we're not going to go over this today, and kind of let us do whatever. And he would play on his phone. And that is something that even some of the courses that I teach, I don't agree with the time frame of how long it takes to teach it. And so I try my best to always give all the cadets something to walk away with that is more like what I think the academy does a better job of preparing you, but there's certain things that when you get out there that you start to learn outside of what's in the academy walls, and I try to present those things to them.
Absolutely. I feel the academy I went to was really good in kind of giving you like a base or foundation. And then the important thing that I've learned from there versus hearing stories of different academies was they prepared me for, you are not going to know everything, and we want you to understand that when you leave these walls, we're preparing you to learn. So like I didn't leave the academy with the mindset of I'm a cop now.
Yeah.
You know, I left the academy with the mindset of I have so much to learn and I can't wait to learn it from whichever agency takes a chance on me.
Yeah.
Which I've heard horror stories of other academies where it's like, and I don't know if it's the academy or just the cadets, where they come out and they're like know-it-alls.
Yeah.
So luckily the academy, we both help out at. That's not the case. So I don't know what I'd do with something like that, and that's something to talk about. How has the culture changed from way back in the day when, no, but like when you first started? And when I say the training culture, I mean like you train a lot of in-service members.
Mm-hmm.
How has the training culture changed, evolved, or what have you noticed being in this industry as long as you have from an instructor side and as a student side?
For me, when I got out of the academy, I thought training was updates. I thought going back for the 2 days of updates, I thought that was your training. And then you'd have, your firearms training and things like that. And I believe that that's where a lot of police officers were like, that's my training. And the concepts were even like the training wasn't taken super seriously. And as I've progressed over the years, you start to see where I think the quality of training that is out there for police officers. And I would say even along the lines of military, the 20-year war has made them realize we need to up the training capacity and pushing the limits of the training. And as they come back, obviously there's different ROEs and things like that, but the learning process, and I see more officers in general seeking out that kind of training, seeking out a higher level, higher intensity of training. No matter what it is, it's not just show up at a course and we throw you a book and you kind of go through it and maybe take a test at the end and you're certified. Now it's starting to, I've noticed a change in where it's getting more involvement from the students and getting that out of them.
I feel like the majority of the trainings that I get sent to, it's always the same structure. Here you are, here's the material, here's the test, here's your certificate.
Yeah.
There's never like an exchange, I feel like, back and forth between student and instructor. The classes I seek out are so different because it's like, hey, this is what we're going to do. If you have any questions, boom. And it's always the instructors, and this is their approach. It's like, this isn't the way, this is a way. We want you to learn. We want you to continue pushing forward and seeking out other trainings. This is where I've gathered my material from. Highly advise you to go look at, like, it's like they're passing the buck and paying homage to the other instructors who've taught them, and kind of like, hey, I benefited from this. When you're done with this course, you should definitely check that out.
Yeah.
So it's more of like there's always so much more. Like when I go to a class, I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn how to do this. Then I go to that class and I realize there's so much more to learn from. And that's what you want, rather than going to a class and like, I think I know it all.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, I feel like we're training, especially for law enforcement struggles. We develop these courses and it's like, boom, here it is. And sometimes it's a money grab, or sometimes it's like to benefit the officer. As an instructor, what is one of the hardest things you notice when teaching, or what's the difference between teaching in-service members and teaching brand new cadets with no job experience?
The cadets are very excited to learn. They haven't been jaded. It's not the, you know, as soon as I get out of here, as soon as it's over, I'm out for the day. They're, they're, they don't know what they're walking into, so they want to learn things. But I think as you're on the job, there's a tendency to get lulled to sleep a little bit as far as, why do I need to train that? Like I've answered all these calls, all these different years, and you do get lulled into nothing's ever happened, or we've had some bad situations and and it's ended okay, and that's I think a huge difference between the two. Like that like we'll be all right.
Yeah, why do you think that is with the job? And I understand that because like coming to work every day, if you don't get a crazy call, it's easy for the next day to come in, with your guard a little less down, a little less down. But we're surrounded by these videos online of the people doing the same work in a different area or a similar area where it doesn't go that way, where bad things happen or accidents happen or tragedies happen. So like I look at that and I go to work and I'm like, man, there's always the possibility. There's always the possibility, and I cannot let my guard down. But not everyone approaches it that way. Why do you think that is?
I think it's sometimes who you are, right? Like, so unfortunately, when an officer is killed, we always, have a memorial email that comes out. If it's in the area close to where you work, you put the band on your badge, and you attend the funeral if that's a possibility. And it is death that we see, but not too many people spend time analyzing videos of bad police interactions. If it's not national news, you're not seeing the video. And so that's where, thankfully, for social media, I spend a lot of time watching police videos, and I have good friends who are police officers that will send videos back and forth of like, I know kind of where they're coming from. They're critiquing how the officer handled it, or you watch the mayhem that's happening, and how would I handle that mayhem? Would that mayhem have happened if I was there? Would I have been able to control the whole situation ahead of the mayhem? And I think that just like you have a variety of people that are police officers, not everyone that is a police officer is actively seeking like how to better handle those situations. Like I know people that shy away from the physical confrontation. They shy away from it. Not that we are out there seeking it, but like you go to jujitsu. I started in boxing. I do jujitsu. But there are so many opportunities for police officers to do martial art training of jujitsu, boxing, control tactics, and things like that. And when it's offered, you're still getting only a certain percentage of police officers to go do that. I think it's increasing, but I would be interested to see. I'd imagine the percentage that do those things are the same percentage that are watching the videos of just even if it never goes to a physical, if it's just verbal, I still think they watch it and they analyze it. And what would I have said differently? How would I have done it better?
I think it's huge to watch video, and I see a lot of organizations and people who do the similar thing. They post it online, and some approach it, in my opinion, correctly and awesome, and others approach it where you're just shitting on people, and this is why there's this big disdain for jiu-jitsu and self-defense and MMA in the law enforcement community, because it's all in the approach, right? So I'm huge on watching these videos. There's all of our instructors in our department, we have a group, and we'll send videos back and forth. And mind you, like, we're not the officer in this situation. We don't know the circumstances. We don't know what happened before that, what was going on through the officer and the subject's mind. We don't know anything, right? We're going off of a video.
Mm-hmm.
But like the NFL, what do? You watch film, you study film. You watch the last game, this opponent's last game. And you're like, hey, this is what we typically see them doing. This is how we're going to approach it. We have all these mental reps happening. And something very crucial in law enforcement, like something very crucial such as law enforcement, we don't do that. It's not like, hey, for example, pattern behavior. When someone's going to strike you or attack you, there's this pattern behavior that we see. Whether it's indexing, whether it's they're looking around, whether they're starting to breathe differently. Like, we know this. There's studies that show, hey, prior to an ambush, prior to someone attacking you, these are the things we're going to see. If someone's carrying something, this is what we typically see. Like, this is all out there. And we as cops don't watch it. We don't try to learn from it. You know, because then if you watch these videos, you see, typically, okay, this is, what would I do different in this situation? The more mental reps you have, if you get put in that situation, it's better than being exposed to it for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we do it in sports, we do it in fighting, in boxing, we watch film, we analyze film. Hey, how can we approach? We don't do it in policing. If we do it in policing, we're weird.
Well, when you think of like the trainings that you've had, and I know some of the courses that you've been through, but think of like how much better it was for you. Obviously, you learn moves or you learn certain things, but until you're presented with the scenario that you have to, like, scenario training is huge, because I can shoot holes in paper targets all day, but that doesn't mean I can just shoot everything, and I have to deal with that scenario. So scenario-based training, I've seen a huge improvement in officer performance. And by you analyzing someone else's video, most of the time you're not getting the body camera, you're getting third eye viewing point of what it looks like to the person on the street. You're running that scenario in your head. So technically, by you looking at the video, you're actually making decisions on what you would do differently. What would I have done different? And so it's not in a classroom and you have an instructor and someone saying, you know, scenario is hot and admin. You're watching a video and you're running a scenario in your mind of what would I do in that situation. And I think that that's huge to improve you as a police officer and how you would make those decisions.
Another thing I like to do, the vehicle combatives class that you host, recording.
Yep.
I'll record. And I love when an instructor's like, record. And this is how you know when an instructor is about that life.
Yep.
When he's like, record it, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because most people would be like, no, this is how I make my money, which I understand. I do get that. I'm not knocking that. But when you know you are about that fucking life, when you're like, record it, I don't care. Because you know the value you bring to the hands-on and the experience and the being there. So I love when instructors like, yeah, record it, that's fine. But give it, I know what you're going to say. Because there's some instructors who do it so well that they don't want it to get into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
So that I understand. But like when we record these, I go through it, I'm recording it, I'll do it, and then I'll go sit at home, and I'm like, man, that one rep with Judd, like, how did he get there? And I'll like analyze him, like, oh dude, I dropped my hip instead of pushing it towards the door, and that's how he was able to get on top of me versus me getting on top. And I'll hyper analyze the mess out of it.
Yeah.
You know, because like in a car, it's different than jiu-jitsu, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you drop your hip in jiu-jitsu, that's an escape. You drop your hip in a seat, he mounts you, and you're trapped between a rock and a hard place. So,
yeah.
Like, I love hyper analyzing video to kind of get those mental reps in, to get that friction broken, and you know, 1,000 mental reps. If you can do that, you're probably going to be all right if it happens. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. So it's funny because I had watched it years ago where there was a guy that would mimic baseball players with his wiffle ball bat in his backyard. And he would underneath, like the caption would be like, you know, Cal Ripken or whoever the baseball player was, and he would get up and he would swing. He had their whole pattern down, their pre-set up, how they would stand, what they would do with tapping their cleats or however, and he had their swing stroke down like unbelievably. And this was just somebody that studied all these different players over time, and he was able to mimic that. So there are huge aspects to studying film. The recording, in some ways, for me, it doesn't matter. You can record anything you want to in my courses or in, Sean's vehicle course, because you get value out of the video because you were in the car and you know what that feels like. So just because you watch the film, you can watch film all day, but if you take that guy with the wiffle ball bat, hand him a baseball bat, stand him at a plate, and even though he mimics everything, guarantee he's not hitting a fastball. No way. He has to know what that feels like. And so I'm not against people recording, and I would encourage it. I think you can learn a lot from it. But where that really value is, the value that lies in that is you've felt what that pressure in that car feels like. And that's where you've had to deal with people on the street. So while it might not be Main Street in your town with the same 4 people screaming and yelling, you've dealt with them on Peach Street and it was 3 people and there was a crowd forming. So now you can watch certain aspects of police video, and that feeling that you had while you were there, it's just a little different.
Same, but different.
Yeah.
and no, that's so true. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, if you can approach training in multifaceted, right? Like, take the training courses, watch the film, do those mental reps, do drills, do real life, do actual scenario-based training. I did a lot of scenario-based training, and then I went to Craig Douglas's ShivWorks, and he's like, all right, we're using sim guns, and I'm like, oh, like every time we've used sim guns, it's been like, not against each other, it's been against like paper in the shoot house. Yeah. We're gonna shoot each other.
Or somebody totally suited up. It's never gonna hurt. Yeah.
Someone totally suited up. So like it literally changed a lot my entire training dynamic, because there is an immediate consequence for me messing up. Oh, yeah. I'm feeling it. Mm-hmm. But I remember and I held my own on that course. I love this course. I remember one of the most painful moments in that course. It was you started on your back and someone's on top of you. You had 6 seconds to get up. If you didn't get up in 6 seconds, he sent the second guy with a knife. Well, it was like a round robin. So you started at the bottom, then there was a top guy and a third guy. And then from there, you became the top guy, and then from there, you became the third guy.
Like an up, down, and out.
Yeah, up, down, and out. I said round robin.
That's okay.
Okay. I speak 2 languages. But, so I had gone the gambit, and now I'm the third guy. I'm gassed, bro. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I hope this dude keeps him down for 6 seconds. Yeah. So the scenario starts. He's counting 1, 2. Dude's keeping him down. 3. I'm like, okay, good. I get a little break. 5, 6. He's like, go. As soon as I take a step, the dude sweeps the guy, stands up, indexes, pull, and he's pointing right at me as I'm running with the knife. And I'm like, this is good. Dude, he literally vertically tracked. I felt every sim round. Yeah. I'm like, I almost had it. But that being said, when you're having, like, that class was so real to me, because you're punching, you're hitting, you're sweeping, you're surviving. That's the closest to, I've fought multiple times on the street. That was the closest. I'm like, I'm fighting this dude. Yeah. Like, you're dropping to the level of training you have, and you're just like in survival mode, And it's so funny, because when you're in his class and he's like, hey, presentation. Don't just pull your gun, because if you pull your gun, now if it's the wrong timing decision, you're introducing it, and now you're both fighting for it. We do a whole day of this. proper presentation, when to pull it out, control it, all his principles. And then you come to the evolution and you're like, oh, fuck all those principles because now I'm in fight or flight mode. Because if it's the first time you're learning these, like, you're like, oh yeah, of course, makes sense. You get to the evolution and you're in fight or flight mode. First thing you do is pull your gun. And that goes to my point of when you see these situations happen online with these officers, I can understand why you pulled your gun. Mm-hmm. You're scared. You're fighting for your life. But like, someone else might look at it and be like, oh, that was easily, like, you could have easily managed that. Yeah. Why did you pull your gun? Well, it's like everyone has different levels of training. And that's why I think that we, as cops, have a responsibility to push other cops to train. Yeah. We have to raise that standard. My question to you is, what is your advice on getting men and women into the door to start training? What excuses have you heard, and how are ways you've approached getting people to kind of raise their standard of training?
Mainly the biggest excuse is time. That's the biggest excuse that people say. I don't have time for it. And so I try my best to have time. Time is whether you have time in your day to actually go to the place to do it or time to travel to that location. So whenever I teach people, I try to always have ideas of gym, like for those of you in the North Hills, this is your, North, these are gyms you can go to. South, these are gyms you can go to. East, these are gyms you can go to. West, so I try to cover every geographical area, because if I have to drive an hour to train, that ends up being 3 hours out of my day, right? That's to regularly train in jiu-jitsu. That's 3 hours out of my day, 2 for traveling and the hour of training. Yeah. So that's where I try to factor that in. Time is a big thing. And then it's just also being in situations where people, I was involved in an arrest one time, and it became a pig pile of some sort. And the guy that was there as part of the pig pile, he still brings it up. He's like, Ekis, I don't know where you came from, but next thing I know, you were like in between all of us, and you had a dude in this some weird arm lock. All I did was I commanded the guy to get his hands to his back, but he was like, you did some weird arm lock. I don't know what you did, but you were asking for cuffs because you were so focused on holding that guy's arm. And that was, people see how experience really pays off, and how you handle certain situations. They pick up on that, and I'll get questions like, hey, where did you go for this? As much as I want to get on my soapbox and scream at people, like, you need this, it'll make you so much better. If they don't see it, they know that they're going to be exposed. And that's another issue that runs into, police have massive egos. They don't like
no.
Yeah.
What? Not cops.
The time that, there's been twice now in the vehicle. One was when you had me smashed in the seat, and I thought I'd be able to use my knees to kind of frame against you, and I got stuck. And I just remember, I'm holding on to that gun for dear life, and you had all the room to move because you had it out the window. And I felt that, and that was terrible. Same thing at a ShivWorks course. It was a fight in a car, and the guy got the jump on me, and I remember being in the driver's seat, and he drove over the top of my neck and was like, I'm smashed
dude, I'd freak out.
And I remember reaching, trying to grab his pant cuff. I remember if I can pull a leg, maybe I could get some, and I cheated. I remember Craig saying, you can't open doors, and I'm like, I can't do anything at this point. Door open, and we went out, and he stopped it.
I did that during your first class.
Yeah.
Do you remember that when someone smashed me? You're talking about being smashed. I got smashed.
Yeah.
And like that is my specialty in the car. That's why I was like, dude, I love this stuff. Like finally an environment where I can thrive.
Yeah.
On the mat, like, but in a car, I love it.
Yeah.
Dude, I like popped the door and we popped out, and you know, Sean's like, hey, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, but in real life, we would, right? He's like, yeah, but we're training a very specific component of vehicle combative, so let's keep it in the car. And I'm like, I was dying. Like I was dying. I was scared. So yeah, I did.
No.
But it's not cheating. You know, you ain't trying if you ain't cheating, right?
Well, yeah, but I think that there's a lot of police that don't want that being exposed on them. And they're going to have to at some point if they really want to train and get better. Like there are people out there that will expose you, and it's not a rude way. They're just way better than I am, and they expose you.
Well, it's not even exposed. Like, would you rather be exposed in a training environment where we are your friends, we're your partners, and we want to see you succeed?
Yep.
Or would you rather be exposed on the street where someone may be trying to end your life? Where do you want the exposure to occur?
But I think that that's where, and I'm sure you've had them. I can think of like easily 4 or 5 different situations that have happened where it ended well, like no one got, or it ended okay. No one was hurt. The arrest was made. So it ends. And so unless, like even think about like Craig Douglas will break down at the beginning of his course. What made me realize I needed to change is when he was almost killed, right? Like, so if, and there are plenty of police in America and all over the world that they've only had to deal with like a jammed finger from a pig pile or, you know, a bruised knee from a pig pile. They haven't had the threat of knowing what being choked out or knocked out, what that feeling of helplessness is like. And so they're afraid of being exposed to that. So in some ways, I can honestly say going to a jiu-jitsu gym where you know it's going to happen can somewhat be more fearful.
Because it's less likely to happen on the street than it is in this training environment. Interesting. I've never thought of it that way. Because in my mind, I've always seen like, if it happens out here, it's very bad. If it happens in here, you're okay. So you can mitigate it. You can learn.
Yep.
But no, it's going to happen in the training environment. Yeah. It may not happen in real life.
Yeah. I mean, there were plenty of police officers that have gone their entire career that have never pulled their gun, never pulled their taser, never, you know, and they're able to hide in some ways. Or anytime something happened, there's 5 other cops there to help handle the situation. And so until you're...
My approach has been, we started a grappling club. So my approach is like, hey, if you see something online, you got questions, like, come on in. Well, you know, the instructors will be there to kind of walk you through. We're not there to beat people up. We're not there to, like, because there's this thing, like, this is how it started. The culture started in the department I'm in. It's like, jiu-jitsu, like, I'll just, whatever. And then now, some of those people who had that attitude, I'm sitting there and one of them was like, hey, can you teach me a Kimura?
Yeah.
I'm like, he doesn't train at all. He does our classes, and you can tell when he's mandated to do this, he's like, oh, dude, actually, this is cool stuff. The way you guys break it down, I'm like, yeah, this is what we're trying to tell you. Like, it's fun, it's exciting, and like, we're here to like build you. We're not here to tear you down. So like, a couple of these classes go, and he's like, can you teach me a Kimura? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, dude, for sure. So we go down to the mat room, and I'm like, hey, this is a Kimura. I'm like, you know what's cool though? Like, if you're on your back, you can actually, someone goes for your weapon, you can actually use this as weapon retention. Let me show you how to apply the Kimura in this instant. Oh, dude, that's so cool. I'm like, you know what? Like, there's another way you can. And I just start like, I add 2 or 3 different dynamics to it, and I see the lights going off, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to completely inundate him. So like, I'll leave it at that in hopes that like that fosters him. And now he tries to get people in Kimuras all the time. So it's like, how do we bridge the gap for the people who may have, not to say egos, but that fear of like starting? Because when I started jiu-jitsu, I was fearful. You see all these men and women just actively trying to hurt each other. Well, in my mind, I'm like,
Yeah.
they're trying to kill each other for fun. You know, all my experience is striking and standing up. Like, I'm a turtle. I go on my back. I'm like, well, stay away, stay away. You know, so now jiu-jitsu was very hard for me to get into. Now I love it. Like, how do we approach people so that we can get the buy-in, we can get them to maybe get their foot in a course, a class, jiu-jitsu, or
I haven't. I've struggled. Like I haven't been able to figure it out. Like to make it. And I try touching like on different areas of. Like I try and tell people, you know, as soon as you add pressure to something, like stress to something, like for gun guy, there are, police officers that like, I love shooting. I'm not a gun guy. Like I like trying to be accurate
same way,
and
yeah.
I love pulling triggers, but I'm not a gun guy. But I try and explain to like gun guys, jujitsu will make you a better shooter because you're having to make decisions under stress. You're having to understand that, you know, I can add muscle and just strength to a certain move only if I know the move. If I like, I've had people lock me up in put me in a Kimura, and they are like putting every ounce of muscle behind it. I'm like, yeah, my arm's kind of taken up, but it's not hurting. And you're sitting there thinking that's the part that hurts me. And I think sometimes when people start to understand that translation, now I understand the grip on the gun doesn't affect it as much as when I'm my aiming when I'm slapping the trigger, because to shoot fast you have to slap the trigger. So now I understand as long as I have good grip I can slap the trigger. And then in the moment decision making of staying accurate with punches in boxing while punches are being thrown at you is similar to something being shot at you, but maintaining accuracy in compromised positions and things like that. And so I always try to like find ways to sell wrestling, grappling, jiu-jitsu, and boxing to people that way of like, it's going to improve you throughout all. And then if you take a look at like national incidents, like, and I do this all the time, and I'm sure you do it. Like George Floyd incident, I would have handled a lot differently,
absolutely.
and I would have, like George Floyd would, the George Floyd incident wouldn't have happened, I think, if there was a regular jiu-jitsu training for that crew. They would have understood control. They would have understood body control, controlling themselves in certain situations. Same thing with the Michael Brown incident. I always said like Michael Brown would be really, really hurt, but he'd still be alive if I was in that situation. But like you were saying earlier, like I forget who it was in that, the name of the officer in that situation, but it was the gun was going to answer my problem. The gun was going to answer my problem.
Yeah, and I hate being this guy, but like I said, the whole premise of this is not to knock anyone, but to open up these conversations that we all have behind the scenes that could benefit people if they listen to. So I'll jump on that, but like if you guys have ideas on how to approach people and get them in the training room, if it's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, definitely comment, send us messages because I want to learn. But on those instances too, I talk about this Grand Rapids case all the time because it's one that when I think of use of force and things that could have been avoided and something that was lawful but awful, it's this Grand Rapids case where the officer pulls out a taser, the guy takes the taser, now raises the use of level of force, right? He has your taser. It was essentially a grappling exchange in the beginning, like both not both unarmed, but essentially grappling exchange. Taser gets taken out. I introduced the taser. Now it's taken from me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I have to escalate the use of force. They get into an entanglement. Guy ends up on the ground, I believe, facing the ground like this, and he still has the taser or something. The officer's on the guy's back.
Mm-hmm.
In jiu-jitsu, that's a beautiful place to be. not only are you on top of him, you have his back.
Yeah.
You know, if someone wants to attack you, the best way is forward, right? Like forward. That's where they're going to generate more force. That's where they're going to be more accurate. That's going to be more dangerous. You're on his back. Well, the guy starts building a house, has a taser. The officer, I'm not sure what's going through his mind. Again, just going off of what I see, my observation, pulls his gun, contact shot to the back of the head.
Yeah.
Dude, I looked at that, I went, ooh. And I always get asked, what would you have done? I can't answer that.
Yeah.
But I will. Given the information I have and the training I've done, you know, the first thing I would have done was not allow him to build a house.
Yeah.
Actually, first thing I would have done was not even introduce my taser until, if you're going to introduce your taser, you should be in, right? Because as soon as you come out here, if you can touch him with your taser, he can grab the taser.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're going to introduce a weapon, you have to be mindful of, if I introduce this, does it become part of the fight? Like, can he take it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he's over there where the camera is, I'm fine here. You know, if he's in this distance, I'm not fine here because you can take it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that. Then there was the little grappling exchange. As soon as he's down, you know, I'm going under, trying to take risks, trying to, you know, break down his base so he can't build a house.
Yeah.
You know, maybe from there hold and wait for backup because there is still a taser involved. I don't want to risk. You don't want to go handcuffs in the middle of a fight. That grinds my gears. I will critique that every time.
Yeah.
I'm fighting with you while I'm holding handcuffs.
Yeah.
What are you like?
I'm down to one hand.
Yeah, you're down to one hand. Now you got this little thing going around that can maybe be put into your neck or maybe you put into his neck by accident. Like, let's not even introduce the handcuffs until you have control.
Yeah.
You know, so this is one of the cases I see where I'm like, man, although it's lawful because due to that officer's training and experience and the circumstances at that time, it was justified.
Yeah.
But could it have been avoided?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, so I don't even know how we got into that. That's where the ADHD jumps in.
Okay.
But,
I think too, we are training, I think it's a shortcoming in training is we're training to like the gear's going to work, right? So it's hard at calls when you're shooting, you know whether you missed or not, right? But you're still seeing shots being fired and you're waiting for the next rounds of fire to be told, right? And then we do the body armor drills or the tracking drills, and we know that, but the whole concept behind the tracking drill is it's not working, it's not having its effect, and so therefore we move to it. But you talked earlier about the scenario you were in the ShivWorks course where you were trying to get on the guy in 6 seconds, right? But then he got free and he stitched you up, right? But I'm willing to bet, now there the guy hit you with the shots, but I'm willing to bet that during some of those scenarios, you saw where people were being shot at, but it was having no effect on them. Where we're used to seeing the hole in cardboard, we don't get that live feedback of like, you know, we've all come up on scenes where someone's shot and they are still moving completely fine. And I think that that's where that force on force scenario-based training is huge because, yeah, you're shooting him and you had stings, but it's not doing the effect that you feel that every bullet's going to do, that Hollywood's built in your mind that you're going to go flying backwards.
Perfect example, because I didn't finish that story. I got stitched up. Mm-hmm. I still went because I was told, you keep going, and we were all told, you keep going until he yells admin, till the scenario's done.
Yeah.
So he shot me 5 or 6 times. Mm-hmm. I'm still going.
Yeah.
So he was still forced to, he shot me, but now we're both hands on, and he's hands on with 2 guys.
Yeah.
You know, so now he's mitigating his, and he, I mean, this guy was a little bit powerful, and we can't say his name because of the work he was involved in at the time, but these dudes were legit to the point where we couldn't even post their faces.
Yeah.
So it was like an honor being around these guys.
I got you.
He immediately holsters and Dude, he's going hands on with both of us.
Yeah.
Like he's stacking us up. He's like everything you're supposed to do. He's doing it. And I'm like, dude, we should be killing you right now. How is it? But he was, he was stacking us, and if you don't know what stacking is, it's, when you have multiple assailants, you want to circle and get them like kind of stacked essentially. So you're always dealing with one or two at a time. He's doing that. And I'm like, dude, fuck. Like, I mean, we're tagging him and stuff. He's tagging us, and then he yells at me, and I'm like gassed. I'm like, not only did I get shot, I got punched. Like but this is what you want.
Yeah.
In the environment you want it, because like you said, when we're at the range and we body armor, boom, holster, we're done. Next course, but this, boom, we're done. That's not real life.
Yeah.
That's not real life. How many times do we see a video with someone coming with a knife, he's shot, and the officer still gets stabbed?
Yeah.
Like it's tough. There was a situation with a woman in the apartment. She continued to approach him. He got tagged multiple times with the knife.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's why you can never train enough. And I like that you mentioned equipment. Let's go about equipment.
Yeah.
Like, just because, how many times do we carry equipment that we never train with? Tasers included.
Yeah.
What's, in the past, my taser training was a board, get two contacts on it. You're certified to carry the taser.
Yeah.
Plus the little written test. What's this button do? What's this button? Okay, cool. But like, no stress tests.
Yeah.
Now we have this cool little suit with the Velcro, and we have Velcro cartridges, and like, it's a stress test. And like, you may fire the taser, and the instructor, unless the instructor yells hit, you're still going.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see, in my experience, how the training has been evolving. But then, I have the benefit of training a lot of different departments, and not a lot of departments train like that.
Yeah.
So it's tough. How important is it to not only have the right tools, but the right training for the tools? And what's an example of where having the right tool, but not the training, didn't work out?
There's two. When you were talking about this earlier, I was thinking first, when I first got on my department SWAT team, I was blessed with a gun, and it had a certain setup of flashlight on it. It was, you remember the Surefire, like L-shaped handle? It was like a drop down. That's what it had on it. And
how was that mounted?
so it would mount on the lower Picatinny rail, and it would just like there was like one of those pressure levers that you would cinch it up on too.
Okay.
So and so I was handed that, and I remember like I was just so excited to get on the team, and like you go up and they give you all this gear, and you're like, I'm not a gear guy. I've never done a ton on gear, but I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. Like I hit the lottery, like I have all this cool stuff, and
SWAT rifle.
right, yeah. So I was running that, and very close time to that. I can't remember when, but my brother actually was like, hey, you should come. He got a good price on a high-end instructor for a pistol and rifle class. I'm like, all right, let's go. And it had nighttime shooting. Now, I had shot nighttime with on police ranges. I did it a decent amount. At that point, probably had 3 years of night shooting. A couple times here and there a year. And I go to this course, and it's in Virginia. And you're on this range that there's no lighting at all. Like the only lighting was the headlights on the car when you started them, and so it was pitch black. And I remember being at the course, and the instructor came from a really elite military unit, and he like asked me about it. He's like, "Is that department issued?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why do you have that on your gun?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like that's what they gave me." He's like, "Can you change it?" I'm like, "I don't know. I guess I gotta ask that. Like I never thought to ask it." And he's like, well, that's just 3 pounds hanging out at the end of your barrel. It's like wasting your energy. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. That's a good idea. So then we go to shoot, and there was 20 shooters, and he counted you off. Shooter 1, go. So think of police work, or on the police line, everybody turns their light on. So you could have dead batteries, you could have low batteries, you could have and you could still shoot. Get away with it. He's like, shooter 1, shoot. And that guy goes, shooter 2. And I was like 3 or 4. He's like, shooter 3, go. And I went to shoot. And all of a sudden I just hear him screaming, like, cease fire, cease fire. And I'm like, what'd I do wrong? And he comes down. He said, go figure. You got that thing and it's a halogen. Everyone else had switched to LEDs. He's like, it's not going to pierce through. And I'm like, okay, now I got to start thinking about what gear that I carry, like, and started to analyze it more. Like, why is this wrong? Why is it not effective? And it really, that course and especially getting called out really made me like, all right, I'm going to make some changes.
Never gonna happen again.
Never again.
Can't happen again.
And then years later, same thing, a flashlight. Well, yeah.
Never gonna happen again, except years
Well,
later.
unfortunately, this wasn't me. We were weapon mounted light on a AR, and it was a actual hostage rescue of a parent that was threatening to kill their kid. And we go into the room, and it was like we get into the apartment, and it was pitch black. And my buddy at the time, he had just switched over to a new light, and it had the pressure switch, but it only had a dead man switch. It had that light at that time never offered a permanent on. And when he made entry into the room where the guy with the knife was with his kid, he came up, had the light on. Well, he went to grab the kid and let go of the light, and so therefore it went back to pitch black, and he couldn't see anything.
And your night vision's compromised.
Oh, completely compromised. And I mean, and I remember hearing him like, Judd, need light. And like, I came in and put the light, my light was on. And yeah, it was just very telling. Like, okay, I need to test out what, like, it never happens till it does. And that's when you don't want to figure it out.
Yeah, that would be scary.
Yeah.
That would be scary. Not a similar incident, but I'm at a rifle instructor class, and we're talking about cans, right? And he's like, "Oh, do you have a screw on? Yeah, what's your setup?" And we're all like, "Oh man, like hopefully yours doesn't screw off." We're joking about this. Well, I'm up to shoot, and we're doing that little barrier that has all the different, and I'm shooting. We're hitting steel. I crack my shot off, a miss. I'm like, not to say I'm the best thing since shoestring, but I don't miss from 25 yards with a rifle.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'll break another shot off, miss. Like, dude, maybe it's where I'm at. Yeah, I move locations. Dude, I break like 5 or 6 more and I'm missing. And I literally, and this is in training, you're not supposed to do this. I stop, and my partner is looking at me, and he's like, dude, something's wrong with your gun. And I'm like, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, and I go again, I shoot, and I miss. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I go to shoot again, and I hear everyone yell, oh, stop, ceasefire, ceasefire. And I'm like, boom. And I look, and I don't know what's going on, and they're like, dude, your can's on the ground. So I look, and my can's gone.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? Dude, my can was loose.
Wow.
From all the shooting we were doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but it's a perfect of like, check your shit before you go. And I'm guilty of that. I didn't check it. We're doing 3 days of shooting.
Yeah.
You should be checking your equipment every time you go up before you go on the line.
Yeah.
Your optics, your lights, my can was tight at some point, and it just, I don't know what happened. And, yeah, dude, that was a situation. I could have shot my can. It's $1,000 can, dude. I was real upset. And it's all because I didn't check my equipment.
Yeah.
So like, even it's not crazy of like a real life scenario where you can damage your equipment just by not checking it, by not being up, staying up with it. The whole light stuff. That's fucking. There's so many lights out there, like halogen versus LED, which a lot of people everyone runs LED now. But the pressure switches, I personally like the pressure switch, but my pressure switch stays on if you click it all the way down. So it's very important not only to know your equipment, but train with it, because when you get hired somewhere, you get issued, hey, these are your cuffs, these are your gun, this is your this is your this. There you go. Yeah. And then you go to work, you put your uniform on, and that's it. It's like, well, do you even know how your cuffs work? Like, where's the double lock? Yeah. Some have them on the side where the key is. Some have them on the back. It's push pin. Some have the little slider. Yeah. Like, how do your cuffs work? Something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Your light. Was it a tail cap? Is it like where's the button? Do you have a strobe? Do you not have a strobe? Like all this stuff that we just carry and take advantage of, and we don't train with. Knives.
Yeah.
You know, do you have a flip blade? Do you have a fixed blade? Where do you carry your blade? You know, like I carry two. I carry one in my cargo, and that's like called my admin knife.
Okay.
You know, if I'm opening stuff up or whatever, and then I have a fixed blade that I carry for my support side in case I can't get to my pistol. That being said, you don't train with it. The day something happens, you to go for your knife, you've never done it.
Yeah.
It's like, how is that going to play out? And you don't want to figure it out in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, so like train with your equipment. What have you seen, you know, being involved? You say you're not a gear guy, but you've been in the industry for a very long time. What are some involvements? Some like better equipment that has come out that's kind of like helping patrol officers and you on the job. Is there any equipment that you're like, man, you guys should try this out? This is something I've been running. Like, is there anything like that you run into?
I think what's going to really do a lot of changes for departments is virtual reality. That is,
We were talking about that during
Dude.
the last training.
it is unbelievable. I just was doing a training with the local church, and one of their guys brought one, and it was just shooting robots that are coming into a building where you are. It's like a zombie shoot, but the having to make decisions in the moment of, you know, I'm shooting this target in front of me, and all of a sudden I see a target that's closer, and I have to decide to come off of this one so I can move to this one. That decision making in the moment is huge. And like I know my department just got a bunch of VR headsets that are, forget the make. It's this, it acts on the same as our body camera. So they have all types of scenarios pre-programmed in, and you have a pistol and a taser, and so you have to decide of your de-escalation, your escalation, your decision making. Shooting with the taser doesn't always hit, like it doesn't always work, and now you have that pressure feeling. So I think VR training is going to drastically change police work and increase the ability. But that being said, it's still a medium where person to person, it's hard for the medium to, so you can't just rely on it, but it will. I think that'll be a massive change.
It's cool because 5 years ago I went to a neighboring agency and they were offering they had like this backdrop.
Yeah.
And then a scenario would play on the backdrop and it was responsive to you.
Yeah.
You know, and like now we have virtual, like where you're engulfed in your environment.
Yeah.
So even that, like back in the day, I was like, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Like if I decide to shoot or not shoot, or if I miss, it gave me my placement of my shots. And like now we have virtual reality where you're like completely engulfed. And like I haven't trained policing with it, but I went down to the sandbox. You ever been to the sandbox in the Strip District?
No.
It's a VR where you get a headset, you get rifles, you get all kinds of stuff, and you get put in a square room.
Okay.
And then with the headset, you can be in a house, you can be in a building. And I took my little brother, and he loves video games. So we're playing, and it's a zombie game. Zombies are coming from the ceilings, and you have to reload every time. Like and I'm shooting. I'm like, dude, this is like so cool. And I'm thinking I'm killing it, dude. He scored 2 times higher than me.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm a cop. Like I should be scoring higher than this 13-year-old. Like, how is that working? But one thing that was going through my mind the whole time, like, why isn't this in policing?
No.
Like, why isn't this a normal thing in policing? Like, bring your guys down here we were there for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, bring your guys down here. You're in this room where you get to move around and like go through obstacles, and you're shooting, you know, weapon presentation, all this stuff. And like it's available to play for fun, and we as cops are not utilizing this crucial technology that can change training overall.
Yeah.
You know, you can't get to a range. You You know, you don't have sim guns because they cost too much. Virtual reality.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a video game. Why can't we use it to train?
All you got to do is throw on the headset and use your conference room.
Yeah. Like it's crazy how things are evolving. Another thing, red dots.
Yeah.
There's a lot of departments that do not carry red dots.
It's crazy.
And it's like, oh, well, red dot can die. I'll stick to my irons.
Yeah.
I get the premise. But like, you have this thought process of like the old school guys are like, nah, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Like the new school guys are like, yeah, but you're on target. Wherever you break where that dot is and you break it, that's what's hitting. Like you don't have to line up the back sight with the front sight onto your target focus. So you're target focused with the dot.
Yeah.
You're looking through the dot to your target. That's how we perceive threats. Like when someone's coming to punch you, you're looking at the threat. When someone's coming to attack, you're looking at the threat. And then we take in firearms and we're like, hey, focus on your front sight.
Yeah.
Cover the threat. You're not focused on your threat. You know? So it's like that's another school of thought that's changing. Like more and more departments and people are going to red dot, but it's not where it should be. Do you carry a red dot?
I do. And I was slow to do it, not for anything in particular. I just was like, and I used to take pride in like the guys on my team that would have them, and I would beat them with my irons because they were getting used to the system and things like that. The other thing I love to do is we'd be shooting steel, so I'd walk down and I'm like, I'm gonna go paint the targets, and I'd paint them red so then they couldn't see it. But the other thing that I've noticed, and have you taken a Vigor course, VIGR?
I have not.
He'll be at the range a lot this year, and he comes locally a lot, and very good instructor. But he always talked about like red dots fail, yeah they do, but so do irons, and irons fail, and it's kind of crazy. Like I do private trainings for just everyday people. And just in a course last week, I had a guy whose front sight wiggled loose and it's flopping all around. I'm like, well, you got to go tighten that down. But we're told that red dots fail, right? And Vigor was always been that. He's like, irons fail. Irons have problems, and they snap off, and they have problems. So you just have to. But the overall ability of a red dot is unbelievable. As long as you know how it works and you understand how it works, it does improve.
And what to do when it fails.
Yep.
Like that's another thing, you know, because before we carry, we have to go through a red dot course.
Yeah.
You know, back occlusions, front occlusions, like your reticle blows out, your glass breaks. Like, how are we managing if that happens? Like, how do we manage that?
Yep.
So it's very important not to just throw a red dot, train a red dot, because it takes you. They say it's 1,000 rounds before you're like, okay, I'm understanding how this works.
Yeah.
You know, so like another 1,000 before you're like comfortable with it. Another 1,000 before you're like, okay, we're good. So like it's a lot of rounds.
A lot.
You know, and we just throw it on and hit the road and be like, yeah, let's get after it. So know your equipment. Know your equipment. Train with your equipment. I guess we'll end it with accountability. Like, what is the role of accountability? Like when I say be accountable as an officer, what does that mean to you?
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
Because to me, there's two different levels of like your personal accountability every day that will spill over into your accountability to your teammates, and then also to the public that you deal with. I think if you view yourself in a level of professionalism, being a very professional person, you're not going to be sloppy in your appearance, in your dealing with people and things like that. Having that accountability, that being a high performer in whatever area of focus. For me, it's, I try to be as high performing in physical fitness and my combatives aspect of it. And I feel because of that, I walk into a situation where I have a level of personal confidence. And I see where people go into some areas where the gun or the taser comes out too soon because of there's not that they haven't done the accountability in a gym or on the mats. They haven't done that type of accountability, and so therefore, in the moment, they have done the accountability of seeing this firearm put rounds through targets, and so therefore, that's going to help me. And so, having that personal accountability is huge, and then being there for your teammates, for the other person, that sometimes is what drives me to stay in the gym or stay on my tactics training, because I don't want my teammates let down by me. I don't want them looking for me to be in an area where I'm not. And they're, why isn't Ekis there? He should be in that area. So I really focus in on that. And then the accountability to the quote unquote public. I hate the like saying like, oh, I train citizens or I train the public. Like, we're all people.
Yeah.
And I think there's an accountability, like you said, your 13-year-old brother, right? Like, when you're out on the street and you're dealing with a 13-year-old kid that's gotten in trouble in some way, or you can see dealing with it like it's your brother, not this just bad kid that's, headed that way. I think that there's a huge accountability, treating people as people. So
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, that's something I didn't even think to get into, but that's something I always talk about, especially when we're doing like role playing. It's like, it's easy to get into the mindset of cop, bad guy.
Yeah.
And I even change how I talk like that, because it's like, may not be a bad guy. Maybe someone going through a mental health crisis. Maybe someone going through a bad day. We all have bad days.
Yep.
Like when we get called, it's not because someone's having the best day of their life and they just want to tell us about it. Like, someone's going through something, probably the worst thing they're going through, because they're calling 911. They're like, this is how I approach anybody. I have went through all my resources and can't handle this situation at hand. I need this person to come and deal with this for me. So whether it's mental health crisis, whether it's an active shooter, whether it's a domestic, whatever it is, they've now contracted you to deal with their problem. We as cops need to be the problem solver. We can't go and make the situation worse. We can't go and how do we do that? First thing, approach it like it's your sibling or a loved one that's going through this. And that being said, you can have a tough conversation with them. I have I just had a call the other day where I told the dude, I'm like, look, bro, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. Your behavior is leading to us being here. You don't want us here. We don't want to be here. We don't want to sit here, have the same conversations with you. There comes a point where you need to grow up and get along with your neighbor. Yelling profanities and shit out the window doesn't do good for you. Doesn't help your business. He's running a business out of himself. Doesn't help your business. Doesn't help you as a person. Doesn't help you grow. It makes the police come here, and now we ruin your day.
Yeah.
So let's fucking learn to get along. That's how I'm talking to him. And that's not a disrespect thing. Like, I've got enough rapport with this guy that he actually was like, dude, I never thought of it that way. Thank you for approaching it that way.
Yeah.
That's how I would talk to my brother or a cousin of mine or a loved one if this repetitive detrimental behavior is happening. There comes a point where you approach it with love, but you're like, bro, what are we doing? What are you doing? Is this benefiting you or anyone around you? No. So what are you doing? And having these honest conversations is how I approach it. I love being a cop because I love people and I love helping people.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm, sir, and what's professionalism? Like, even that gets washed out. What's professional? You got to show up. You got to be better. Okay, what is being better? Being better is managing the situation better than the average person, right? Like, I'm going to try to connect with you and get to you so that I can inspire change, whatever that change is.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's, I approach everyone with respect. Everyone with respect. And that looks different in different lights. But like, how would I approach my little brother? I'm not going to approach this 13-year-old how I would approach this grown man acting like a 13-year-old. It's you have to know how to talk to people, and that's a whole different training and segment and conversation on its own. But like, I've come across some cops that like feels like they've been bullied their whole childhood, and they put a badge and a gun on, and now they're better than everyone. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You like, there's nothing different between you and this person, other than 2 pieces of metal you carry, and this perceived authority. It's a perceived authority. Not everyone has to respect the authority. Like back in the day, sure, that was a thing. But nowadays, with the industry is gone and how people like, there's a lot of mental health issues happening in our times, right? You know, we went through COVID, people go through losses, and there's diseases and sicknesses. Everyone's hurting in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
When we approach a situation, we're even hurting. We're dealing with our own shit.
Yeah.
You know, so like professionalism is like not allowing your own shit to bleed through what's happening here, right? Being able to go, hey, I know I'm going through this at home, but I need to deal with this here.
That's the dynamic I think that it's hard to measure, so I don't think it can ever, but I always wondered, like, in the videos that you see where it's a bad police interaction, how much did home life of that police officer, like, you know, there's so much that goes on. There's times where, you know, what you see in national news, and I've had friends that are like, you know, kind of attack me as a police officer, like I answer for all police.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm like, first off, let's pump the brakes and let me get a little bit of time, because you're only getting a certain part of the news that they want you to see, or that let's take this full thing in. And then I also say, I have no idea what was going through that guy's mind. No idea. You know, was he having, you know, issues with his own family life, his own kids, his own, you know, was his, you know, did he make a bad investment? Now his house is in foreclosure. You know, I don't know what stress is out there, and that all factors in. And that's where you have to have the accountability, like you're saying, to flush that as a police officer. Because if we bring a bad day to the office, the ramifications on other people are way greater than if I bring a bad day to, you know, my whatever clerical job where I'm sitting at a desk typing away, beating on my you know, typewriter.
Yeah.
There's or my computer and stuff like that. There's a huge difference.
You just dated yourself. I'm not gonna let that one go. Beating on a typewriter. You still got a typewriter. You need to talk to your department. You're like, it's time for change.
But that's where our interaction affects, like how we are handling ourselves affects, and can really make someone have a really bad day, and unfortunately could end up potentially in a loss of life because of how we're doing.
And not to justify or excuse it, but at the end of the day, we're all people, man. Mm-hmm. We're all going through life trying to figure things out to the best of our abilities. I truly believe that. And I approach people that way, right? Like some people do it a lot better than others. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But we're all trying to figure this out, you know, and not to justify that, but like you have to consider there's this mutual respect that should occur. As cops, we should approach it. We should be able to leave home at home and approach the situation for what it is right now.
Yeah.
And as someone dealing with cops, you should be able to do the same thing. And I promise you, if you approach it that way, more than likely the situation is going to go good. I won't say it'll go in your favor, but it'll go good, right? Like, because there's this mutual respect. All the videos I see of like people just, whether it's the cop or the other person, blatant disrespect, blatant like, nah, fuck you. It's like, dude, I'm a person. Talk to me like a person. I'm not a fucking robot. I have feelings. I know, but cops have feelings. Ooh, crazy. Like, yeah, we should be better, but like, we're people too.
Yeah.
You know, you're approaching us a certain way, we're approaching you a certain way. Let's have this mutual respect. And one of the things I would like to do with this podcast is I want people who aren't cops to watch this. I want them to give their 2 cents. I want them to tell stories like, well, this cop came over. Like, I was on a podcast where a dude asked me, he's like, hey, how would you handle this situation? You show up and they start motherfucking you. I'm like, that happens all the time. I just like, all right, dude, like, what did I do to you? Like, this, like, I pulled you over because of this reason. Like, I get paid the same to drink coffee and then sit in my car and look at everyone smile. I don't want to be doing this. You know, like, that's how I would approach it. He's like, oh, because I got pulled over and dude was a fucking asshole. And I'm like, okay, well, like, how did you handle that then? He's like, well, I kind of got snippy. And I'm like, okay, we have to understand, like, What if this cop just gave CPR to a baby
Yeah.
and the baby died? He has a baby at home going through something. You know, not to justify his behavior at all, but like if we can understand each other, it helps the interaction, right? So what if this officer's dealing with this, and now he gets a call because you're pissed off your neighbor's dog pooped in your yard, and instead of talking to the neighbor, going, "Hey, can you pick that up?" You've now called us to deal with it, and your neighbor's pissed because instead of talking to him, you called the police on him.
Yeah.
So now this cop is like, "Why couldn't you just talk to your neighbor?" You know, like, not to justify his approach, but like, he may be bringing something, or she may be bringing something from a previous call that she's still dealing with, right? Like, we have resources for PTSD and all the stuff we go through, but like, it's not happening after each call. You know, we were on a call where a dude killed his wife, then killed himself. You know, if that's mid-shift, that gets handled, you deal with that. You're still working for another couple hours. You know,
Yeah.
you have to run traffic or whatever it is. You have to answer the next call that may not be that, but like, we're processing shit as we go throughout the day. You know, like, how many medical calls do we go to where it's not traumatic, but it is traumatic in the sense of you go to a call because someone's loved one just passed away. And now we have to, like, you know, deal with this and help them through this. And then we have to go and then answer another call where a similar thing just happened. You just watched someone die in front of you 2 times in a shift. There's people who go their whole life without ever dealing with anything like this.
Yeah.
You know, so it's tough. Like, approach each other with respect, with love. I know it sounds corny, and there's the old school guys who are probably listening to this like, no, they should just respect us. Dude, we're in different times, man. We're in different times. Good stuff. A lot of stuff we talked about. All that to say, if we can summarize this episode, how would you summarize this episode, and what key actionable steps would you tell people that can help them be better officers?
Seek out training, and especially like you even said, I didn't realize until I went outside of mandated training. Go do something outside of mandated training. There's so much benefit from it. And then like my team recently trained in something that guys were like, why are we training that? We'll never do that. A lot of times for me, that builds your understanding of timing with your teammates, and whether it's something we're going to do or not, you start to understand how they work, and you get that feeling. So by you putting yourself out there and training where it's not just everyone sitting behind a desk and answering questions on a test, you start to understand how other police departments work, concepts that they have, and things like that. Always seek out that other training, and then treat people like they're human, right? Just like, you know, and I asked that reciprocal from the concept of treat the individuals that you deal with like they're a family member, or that they are, you know, a friend. That, you know, we all have friends that go through stuff. Treat them that way. But then also for, you know, people that are not police officers but have interactions with police officers, you don't want robotic police. You don't want, like, they're human, and the human element is good for policing. And so you need it, but with that human element also comes stress and bad decisions and wrong decisions in the moment. But you don't want robotic policing. You don't, it would be very bad. And I would even almost say, in some ways, the more technologically pushed policing is, there's certain things that we can't use discretion on. As far as, you know, we would let certain things go because we realize we've had rapport with this person and they made a bad decision. Well, now it's on camera, and so therefore, sorry, like so that's where that robotic policing you don't want.
No, true, yeah. Approach every situation as it is, but with that human element, man. Like, approach the cop like he's your brother. You can be pissed off at your brother.
Yeah.
You can explain to them, hey, I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't like what you're doing. You know, and through that interaction, hopefully good things unfold. But that goes with the cop too. Approach this person the same way. You may not like what's going on. You may not like how they're approaching you or treating you, but like, you have to approach it in a respectable manner. And it's like, I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Yeah.
You know, but like I think the more conversations like this we have, the more people listen, the more people realize like, oh, dude, like this is just another person. Like the cop can be your neighbor. The cop can be, or the person you're dealing with could be your neighbor. Could be a loved one. Could be, you know, like how would you want someone treating your mom in a situation, or your father in a situation, or your brother who's going through a hard time? Like how do you want someone to treat that? A cop to treat that
Yeah.
in a certain way, right? So you approach incidents like that.
Yep.
I would encourage, if you're listening and watching, like, get active in the conversation. You know, comment, message, tell us, hey, I like the way you said, I didn't like this, or this is how I would approach it. I think this is what could change things. Like, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for open conversations. I don't know everything. You're not a dude who claims to know everything. This is strictly our opinions. We're not out to jam anyone up or shit on anyone. I'm just speaking based off of my experience and what I know and what has worked for me. And maybe it doesn't work for you, and you can, you know, teach me a different way that I can apply. That's the whole goal of this. So, bro, I appreciate you for coming on here, sharing your experience, talking with us, and contributing to the conversation. You know, if you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow No Cop Out Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. Episodes drop last Monday of every month. You know, kind of give people a month to talk, to interact, to have conversations, and, you know, hopefully help us better the next episode. And that's the goal. We want to continuously improve, not only in our personal lives and our professional lives, but in this platform that we're trying to build too. So appreciate you for jumping on.
Definitely.
This is the one with Judd Ekis
Okay.
on No Cop Out, and we're out. Later.
See.
No cop out.